I can share my screen.
Yeah, can you share your screen? You should be able to, yeah? And I'm gonna pin you. Okay, so that it's the...
Not sure what you guys can actually see, but I'll go ahead and get started. You can stop me if you can't hear me or the screen doesn't match what I'm talking about. Aloha, my name is Keanah Igleias, and I focused around lesson 1, which was the growing conditions for plants. 2 challenges I had, or I have right now currently, is how can I gain more knowledge and connections to start up a class or a school garden? Because we have a lot of the land per se at my school, but nothing much is being done to actually utilize the land that we have. And I'm just not sure about how to go about it. And then another challenge I am facing is how can we better supplement or support the learning in Feast, whether that's through videos, readings, guest speakers, more place-based knowledge, or experiments. For me, I like to add a little bit more with the lessons. So I would give a video to kind of supplement what they're learning about. Or maybe if I could find student-friendly readings, or even bringing in community members who can talk more about gardening or planting, especially from like a Hawaiian perspective, is what I was wondering. Oh, backwards, wrong way. Okay. Some reflections and takeaways I had from this course is I'm not actually a science teacher. I teach in an innovation academy at an intermediate school where we have a cohort of students and teach them basically all the subjects. But going through the Feast course has given me confidence to teach agricultural science and science in general, because all the cross-cutting concepts have been very daunting. And I really appreciate that there's a lot of learning grounded in place and personal stories that allow students to share their voice and share their background of where they're coming from. I also really think it's crucial to have students involved in whatever lessons or activities are being done in the classroom. And this is a great chance because students have planted all their lettuce seeds and they're growing really well. Like some look like they should be harvested soon. So I'm really excited about that. They're like, can I eat it? I'm like, you should probably wash it. But that's how excited they are because they get to see it grow every day too. And then student engagement using scientific skills. So not just me like building confidence in science, but also my students, and seeing that it can be done every day and not just like in a specific experiment that is isolated from everything else, so that there's connections to their daily lives. And then so I said I focused on lesson 1, how do plants respond to different environments. The learning goal was to determine the best growing conditions for their lettuce plants. This is actually straight from the Canva presentation I created to support their learning. So I kind of guided them through the process of they're going to decide what their independent and dependent variables will be. And in that process, they also watched an ed puzzle that explained a little bit more after we had a discussion about what independent and dependent variables are. And for those that don't know what ed puzzle is, it's kind of like YouTube for school. And you can input formative checks throughout to see how students are understanding the content. So then I can go back and see who would need extra support or who really understood what they watched. And it's also helpful for those who are not strong readers. I like Edpuzzle because a lot of students are more visual or they enjoy videos more. So this was something I like to implement in just in general into my classes. But I also broke up, I listed possible independent variables for students and possible dependent variables for them. And I just, based on what Lauren shared in one of our classes, I told them to keep the pot size the same as much as possible. Some people did choose to change the pot size, but most of them kept the constant with the pot size and then just changed the independent variables. So I kind of combined lesson 1.2 and 1.3. So like independent and dependent variables, and then also planting, setting up the experiment for planting. And I made this lettuce plant slide. So it has their name, the date, the mahina or moon phase we planted on, the time planted, just trying to get all the data to be as specific as possible. And then students listed, they wrote it in the book and then they transferred it here onto this Google slide. And then they listed what was their independent variable and dependent variable. Location of soil 1 and location of soil 2 in case they had their independent variable was the change in soil. The size of pots, I had 3 different kinds, or I guess 4 different kinds. And then where did they place their pots in case that was their independent variable, in case they placed it outside or in our nursery. We have an aquaponics nursery in our classroom. And then to practice sort of introduction to kilo, I asked them to observe the soil as they planted. I need the color, the texture, smell any particles in it. And then at the end, practicing those science skills, working on a hypothesis of what they expect, which plant would do better based on independent and dependent variables that they identified. So this is kind of what it looked like. So each student, most of us planted on the same day, so we all had the same moon, but sorry, this is like overwhelming now that I look at it. Some students chose soil type, some chose like location, and then some were measuring height, some were measuring number of new leaves. And then you can see the difference with observations of soil and hypothesis. And then this is what their plants look like the first day they planted. And then another lesson I focused on, or I guess part of lesson 1, is their table 2 for 1.3, which was logging their observations. I converted that into a booklet. I will share that with Mingwei as well. I called it the plant growth kilo log. So instead of the table 2, I converted that to make it larger so that they can log a lot more. And also I would like them to draw, have more space to draw. And so on the cover of the page, the cover of the book, I had them put their dependent variable hypothesis. And then at the end, they're gonna log their results and then, explain if their hypothesis was true or not, and then why or why not. And then to the right is what I designed. So the left would be their drawing every week for their 2 plants, the data, and then observation notes. I wanted them to use more of their senses to practice again kilo, and then logging their plant height or width or number of leaves based on what their dependent variable was, so what they're measuring. And so some of the examples are here. So you can see a range of skills. So that some are more gifted with drawing for sure, but as long as I can get a clear picture of what they're doing or what is being drawn, they get points for that. And then I also wanted them to practice being more accurate. So I told them you need to use, like, if it's not exactly 4 inches, you have to tell me what fraction or decimal it is. And I recommended they use centimeters for some. So you can see some are inches and some are centimeters. And then some just did both, counting inches and leaves. And then this is actual pictures of my students doing their kilo. We do it every Thursday. So, and then the bottom left is them playing with their wind measuring or wind contraption. They enjoyed that. So they do enjoy going in and out of the classroom because it gives them that flexible environment, which is they're used to that in my class. So they have that option all the time. So this fits in well with their like the culture of the classroom. Yeah. And then so going back to my challenges, how can I gain more knowledge? Because I really would like to do a school or a class garden aside from doing like in the pots. And then how can I better supplement or support the learning that's already in the workbook, and then expanding that so we could have more detailed discussions or even assignments, or even, like I said, guest speakers. Yeah. So if anyone has anything to share or questions.
Oh, mahalo, Keanah. So I forgot to add Anna to the list. So I think if you have a response, my micromanagement, it'll be like SB, Janelle, Cynthia, Anna. Or Anna. Any responses to Keanah's amazing presentation and her challenges? Let me put it in the chat. SB, wait, the sequence is Keanah, SB, Janelle, Cynthia. Oops, sorry, Cynthia spelled it wrong. Any thoughts from anyone? If SB, any thoughts?
I know it was a lot of work to rewrite that workbook and insert the part where you had your drawings, but I know it was more meaningful as a teacher and as for the students to have all that in two space to look at. So I really love that you adapted that for your teaching style and for your students. But I know that was a lot of work.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time adapting and making my life harder, so it's part of it. But I will share that booklet.
I definitely want to piggyback on what SB said. It like the changes that you made, I can see how that really affected the depth of learning. In regards to your second question about better supplementing and supporting it, I think you're already doing some of those pieces to help them build the connections between deeper like kilo practices and such as in doing that as part of your routines. But I think it's also always helpful to bring in other folks, whether as guest speakers. There's a couple of various like how to kilo videos that I've utilized in the past that I can throw out there. But bringing in some of those practitioners who can help students to really deepen that understanding of when we kilo, yes, we are kiloing our plants, but we also want to kilo, our environments, our lani, our honua. We want to kilo all of these places because all of these components help to affect how our plant does and how it grows. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think it's my turn. I think it was excellent as well. So well done. Part of the challenge, perhaps reaching out in the newsletter to the school, asking for garden support. That's how it started basically in my son's age group years ago, was moms volunteered and they just started doing it, and then it looks really fun and other people help. So perhaps maybe some type of thing like that, if they have that available at your school. But otherwise, good job.
Anna, any thoughts?
I love how the kids are comfortable to go as they go in and out. And I think that's really important. Then that, they need that time and they need to feel comfortable and supported and like respected. I know I did when I was when I was a kid in class. In terms of knowledge and connection, same as Cynthia said, I would just like go out to your school community or even your like community surrounding your school and just see if there's any like farmers or gardeners. And a lot of people are just willing to volunteer. I don't know if your school accepts volunteers back on campus, but even just like with ideas, they could come and just talk story with you to deepen the lessons. But it's great.
Mahalo, everyone. And I just wanted to close by saying, for the first one, I hear that you've joined another PD, and I'm sorry you're missing day one of that PD. We didn't know that
No,
we were doing the same time. So that's one way. I would like you to also keep in touch with Anna because she works for Cocoa Foundation and they have PDs. I know it's not the same area. You guys kind of focus a little bit more on North Shore area, but still please do keep in touch with Cocoa Hawaii Foundation, where they have curriculum, they have PDs, so that you gain more knowledge. And sometimes, Keanah, it's like trial by error. You just gotta do it. And so yeah. And then the feast thing, I am really working on a more interactive website. Our current feast website is kind of so in a few months, if all goes well, what we're wanting to do is that the feast website will contain some of your materials that can be downloaded, videos, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, awesome.
All right, mahalo. Any closing thoughts from you, Keanah?
I would just want to say that it definitely sparked my interest. I mean, I've always had an interest for like food sovereignty, especially that this course just made it even more of a priority for me. And so that's really what pushed me to like sign up last minute for this next course as I'm trying to finish up my portfolio. But like I'm super excited, and I'm also from Saipan, and I would love to one day, if I ever move home, to help start that up there as well.
Mahalo, mahalo. Okay,